Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular board meeting of Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, June 16th, 2023. I would like to start out by reminding everyone that this meeting will be live streamed as per policy 7. Regular and special meetings of the board may be streamed live, archived, and accessed online. The board reserves at its sole discretion via motion at any meeting the right to not stream live or archive a meeting or a portion of a meeting. Further, the board reserves the right to edit any recorded portion of the meeting. Further to that, as far as live streaming, I just wanted to mention that the board office is having intermittent internet issues, so it's possible that those at home, the recording may be cut short. All right, I would like to call the regular meeting of the Langley Board of Education to order at 7:01 p.m. I would like to first acknowledge that the Langley School District is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsqueak, Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo First Nations. We gather here tonight in an understanding of the importance of Yayistil, Skekayis working together and Nutsamot, Letsamot, uniting ourselves with one mind, one heart to ensure that we support and inspire all learners to reach their full potential. I'd like to start out by introducing and welcoming everyone here. First of all, as from our partner groups, I would like to welcome Taylor Hollabaugh from CUPE 1260, President, Jessie Cowger, CUPE 1260 VP, Alicia Rempel, DPAC President, Kim Anderson, LP VPA President, Tanya Kerr, LTA President, Superintendent Mel Gill, Secretary Treasurer Brian Isley, Deputy Superintendent Woody Bradford, Assistant Superintendent Lisa Lanchbury, Assistant Superintendent Marcello Moino, Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shind Chand, Communications Manager Joanne Abshire, Executive Assistant Judy Swanson, IT Manager of Infrastructure and Security Dale Vo, Technical Support Specialist 3 Paul Baboa, Technical Support Specialist 2 Vincent Montefrio, and starting at my far left, Trustee Charlie Fox, and next to him, Trustee Tony Ward, and Trustee Sarb Rai, and my other far right, Trustee Marnie Wilson, and next to Trustee Wilson is Trustee Joel Neufeld, and myself, Chair Candy Ashdown. And I hope I haven't missed anyone. My apologies if I have. All right, so I like to start by report from in camera, which I will give the report as Trustee. Oh my goodness, I said I wasn't going to keep forgetting names tonight. I'm doing it already. Trustee Dickinson is away this evening, so we discussed personnel and property. All right, so trustees, you have the consent agenda in front of you. Could I please have a motion that the Board of Education adopts the consent agenda items as provided? Trustee Fox, do I have a seconder? Trustee Neufeld. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. All right, consideration of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you. There's one addition to the agenda under new business. There's a motion coming from Trustee Wilson with regards to counseling. So if you could please add that under new business. So if I could have a motion, please, that the agenda be approved as amended. Trustee Fox, Trustee Ward, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Secretary Treasurer's reports. 2023-2024 annual budget bylaw first and second reading. I will pass this over to you, Secretary Treasurer Isley.
Thank you, Chair. In your package tonight is the preliminary budget for the 23-24 school year. And before I start, I would like to say thank you to Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shin Chand and his team for the work that they've done over the last little while, preparing the budget for the 23-24 year and getting us to this point. So I just wanted to acknowledge the work that they've done and to thank them. Okay, there we go. Just wanted to refresh trustees their responsibility every year for the School Act. The district needs to file a what the ministry calls a preliminary budget by June, by June 30th for the next fiscal year. That is specified by the Act to be in the format prescribed by the ministry, which continued to be the PSAB format, which requires the following pieces of information. The statements are the ones that are the combined results for all the funds that the district has, operating, capital, and special purpose funds. And the schedules are the actual details for each of those funds. The Schedule 2s are the operating amounts, Schedule 3s, your special purpose amounts, and Schedule 4, the capital amounts, which tonight we will spend most of our time going through the operating portion, which is the largest piece of our budget. Some of the high level budget assumptions that we have used to build this preliminary budget for 23-24. This year we were more aggressive on our enrollment forecast than we have in the last couple of years to be able to put out staffing and those kind of things earlier in the process. We've projected for revenue purposes with the ministry up to 812 FTE for September count. We've projected our ISP program to be 880 FTE, which is similar to last year. You can see the number there. Last year was 96.235. In that was fees that we collect for those that cancel throughout the year. So when you look at the number of students that are coming, it's roughly the same as it was for the 22-23 year. Had to incorporate dental and extended health increases. Those things have started to climb as we've come out of the pandemic. They weren't used for a number of years. People are now back using those things and the rates have gone up. CPP and group life insurances have continued to increase and have had substantial increases in our WorkSafe rates due to the experience of the sector as a whole. Luckily, part of that is also based on the experience rating of individual districts, which our district performed well, so our rates increased less than those in other districts. We've incorporated the 6.75% increase for our QP teachers. That's the 5.5 plus the 1.25 for the cost of living adjustment, which they've called the COLA, which was just announced a couple weeks ago, that will be funded by the ministry. We also have included 1.3 million based on 5.5% for admin and exempt. In the 22-23 year, those were funded by the ministry. The raises for exempt and admin for the first time. That has not transpired as of yet for the 23-24 year. The hope is that those will be funded by the ministry, and we continue to request, and I know the sector as a whole has been putting a lot of pressure there. The hope is that that'll happen and we'll have to incorporate that funding into our amended budget. Once again, taking a premium holiday, about 900,000. Last year was just under $1.3 million. We've also included information that we've received from BCPC on benefit enhancements for teachers in QP and the funding that has come with that at about $380,000. All the impacts of all the late starts and removing of one-time items. So those are the overarching assumptions. On the revenue side of things, you can see the three funds. The district continues to grow due to the enrollment increases and the collective agreement funding that has come in. The revenue is just over 348 million. The bulk of that coming from the ministry. You can see of all the three funds at just over $310 million. And the bulk of our funding obviously going into our operating category of $280 million. And I'll go through more of these details as we go. I just wanted to give some high level overall before we get into it. On the expense side, you can see a similar 348 million of cost, with the largest piece once again being in operating at 276 million. And the largest piece obviously is in instruction, just over $289 million. The bylaw that is in your package tonight is made up of the 4 funds as mentioned, and the bylaw all-time high for this district at $355 million. We continue to grow due to the exponential growth in students that we've experienced over the last 2 years, and this is planned for this year coming up as well. That is way higher than the growth that we'd experienced even before the pandemic. We were averaging 300-400 students a year. Pandemic years kind of slowed that down, but about 1,000 students the last 2 years, and projecting as shown earlier at 800 for this year. So we are one of the fastest growing districts in the province, second only to Sarina. For the operating, go through that in a little more details. This is all the changes you can see from the amended budget to the preliminary budget for 23-24. Won't talk right now on the ministry grant and the tuition. I have separate slides for that, but did want to talk about licensing and rentals. We are slowly getting back to the levels we were pre-pandemic. We're planning to be pretty much back to that level in 23-24. One of the benefits of the higher interest rates out there right now is our interest revenue has increased substantially over the last number of years. So that's gone up to $2.2 million. I believe it had gotten hit a low of about $400,000 during the pandemic. So it has been a substantial change in revenue for the district. The rates on per pupil amounts were increased this year for the collective agreements for the teachers and CUPE. I just wanted to show the rates, what they were in 22-23 and 23-24. So they basically have raised those for the increases from the 22-23 year and the 23-24 year. The 23-24 year only includes the 5.5% in the rates. The COLA, or the cost of living adjustment, is coming in a special grant, which you can see at the bottom of the next slide when I get to it. Most of these rates have gone up about 9.4, 9.5%, which is pretty consistent to the salary increases. Apologize for the small font. You can see the biggest driver of our operating grants is our enrollment, up just over $24 million, followed by our unique student needs going up just under $6.3 million. Excuse me. A lot of the other smaller grants haven't changed, but did want to point out there's a big decline there, obviously, in the labor settlement funding that we received in 22-23 for the teachers and CUPE, and also the funding for our principals and exempt, as those funds have now all been rolled into the per pupil amount that was shown on the previous slide. The COLA adjustment, like I mentioned, is coming through as a one-time special grant in our operating for $2.75 million. And the extra $380,000 in enhanced benefits. The plan for that is those will then be incorporated into the per pupil amount in the 24-25 amounts when the ministry announces those for next go around. The tuition, had mentioned the biggest difference there obviously is the amounts that we retained for students that had partial refunds throughout the year, and basically those funds we remove as we don't know what those are. Those then, as we get those over time, will be incorporated back in at the amended budget, and the district uses those on things that are one-time program spending, so that when we have to take the revenue out, there's no cost that has to come out with those. The operating expenses by function. We have slides to go through all those. I just wanted to have an overview slide The biggest increase obviously is our teachers, and followed by our benefits for all of our staff that roll up into the compensation. These are the changes in the teacher category. The biggest one obviously being the 5.5% increase and the COLA adjustment that was announced just recently. We also have just over $1.3 million in teacher increments. Teachers, as they go through time, go up the scale, and those are funds that are not funded by the ministry, so we have to incorporate those into our budget as we go forward every year. We've planned for 11 divisions at this point for elementary and middle. We go through that process in early April. Obviously, not all the students are here at this point in time per our projections. So we also created a contingency of 10 divisions that will be used over the summer as students continue to come into the district between the time we did our preliminary grids and division to when the students actually arrive in September. 7.9 FTE increase in teaching time at elementary for additional blocks. We removed we added teaching time as we removed some of our vice principals' teaching load and provided more admin time for our vice principals due to the number of students that continue to come into the district. Wanted to allow them to have some more supports to support staff and students as the growth in kids and the growth in number of staff continue to happen there. There were 2 additional blocks for French immersion due to some inefficiencies in how those have to run due to the numbers in the cohorts. We added a 1.0 counselor, 1.55 FTE in learning supports from the teachers that were on leaves that were taken out in the amended budget that we're adding back in. 2 itinerant staff for learning support services. 6.2 resource teachers. There's also more resource teachers that'll be coming out of the Classroom Enhancement Fund, but that is done in September. The annualization of late starts and vacancies had a lot of those this year. That's about $617,000. We added additional learning assistance time of 0.7. ELL teachers 3.0 due to the growth there. It's another area that the district is growing exponentially year over year as the demographics of Langley continue to change. Literacy intervention support teacher 1.0, 0.2 for career education, 0.35 position for TTOC coaching. Added a 0.2 for early literacy at Noel Booth, which was a position that had been covered by a position centrally here. So we're now allocating that to the school. 2 blocks for explorations due to the growth at Stafford, and increased library time of 0.2 at Betty Gilbert and an athletic block at Betty Gilbert. So those are the highlights of the changes on the teaching side. On the principals and vice principals, we have the wage increases of $750,000. We had done some one-time admin support and coverage for admin that had been away of about $240,000. So we've pulled that back out, and we'll revisit that in the amended budget if there's need for that to be done again. The past, we used to put 0.3 of our district principal against our French funds. Those have now been moved over into our operating funds, so those funds can be used for teachers and other things in the French immersion and French late French programs. Due to the growth, especially up on the Willoughby Slope, added vice principal at both Yorkson Creek and Peter Ewart as those schools continue to grow and just need additional admin time there to manage the growth in those buildings. On the education assistance side, once again, the cost of living increases just under $1.3 million, where we've added 23 positions that are being posted. And then we've had a contingency of 11 positions. The contingency there is We have recalcs in our funding at February for our identifications. And so we've built that into the plan so that as those students arrive between September and February, that those positions can be added as expedited as possible. For support positions for the district SCA sports team, there's one that's multicultural worker that is now being done more through the Swiss workers than through the international program. It was poorly placed probably in the international program. It fits better with the Swiss workers, which is a special purpose fund. We have 1.0, a youth care worker being added to HD Stafford, and there's some funds that had to have been moved out of operating into special purpose grants for early child care. And then there was just some adjustments at schools for assisted hours. Most of them were added with carry forward funds and late start funds at the school level that have gone back to their normal staffing levels. On the sports staff side, the increases 1.4 million. Due to the growth and number of portables, 2.5 FTE and custodians being added. Part of the feedback we received from QP 1260 was the need to support some of our larger elementary schools. So we're going to create a new position centrally here for a floater that we'll be able to send out to schools to support our clerical staffs as they try to do registrations and get through their busy points. And also an extra position at Yorkson Creek and Peter Ewart just to be able to handle the volume that is now in those two schools. A tech specialist that was hired late in the year, the impacts of their salary, and just some other adjustments at the school level for time in that area as well. On the other professional side, wage increases is the big one, with the rest being adjustments for people that started partway through the year for $43,000. And in the past, we had a more percentage of our director of instruction in being charged to capital projects. We're scaling that back so that we can provide more admin support earlier, so the principals can get started in those schools prior to opening and getting the schools up in a better fashion. Substitute costs, one that continues to grow in this district. I was telling the superintendent today, this is the first time since I've been here that the amended budget is actually higher than the preliminary budget, because usually in the amended budget we have all the vacancies put in for the late starts and all those, and we usually take those out, and it usually results in a lower budget. Well, this year that's not the case with the increases and also the usage and the growing district. Those subs and substitute costs have been increased. You can see the contractual TTOC is up. You can see the reduction in the vacancies of $550,000, and we've added it also into the QP casual report. So this is one that continues to grow year over year for the district as we continue to grow, and was particularly hard hit during COVID. On the supply side, we have ISP commissions up $65,000. As we can start doing more things, the development for leadership has increased by just over $22,000. The district is planning to update its long-term facilities plan, so there's some funds there for a consultant to help us along in that process. We'll start that shortly after the completion of the strategic plan, as we wanted to do that first. And that's coming up later in the evening. Also, the good news that we've been approved to progress to the project definition stage of doing the business case for the new high school in Willoughby Slope. So we've put funds in there to that work, $63,000. A lot of these things you'll see now are just cost increases that we've experienced due to just the world that we live in, where everything is costing more. So our Baragar and my budget file softwares have increased 16,000. Our audit fees are up just over 11,500. Looking at doing a vision refresh of our graphic, so we put some funds aside for that, $50,000. We've decreased the leasing costs. So this is the last year that we have leasing costs for our technology by about just under $143,000. Those funds have been moved into the equipment budget for IT. So now we basically have our own refresh cycle and are no longer leasing any technology. Budgets at schools for carry forward and late starts, they reduced their supply budgets by just under 600,000, which is normal this time of year. Elementary athletic supplies, which was a one-time amount that was put in the budget for K-7 schools to get athletic equipment. So that's being reversed out. The walk limit study from the motion from the board of $60,000 that was in the budget has been removed. Maintenance requests and school furniture, also due to the late starts and the carry forwards that they get, $50,000 and $40,000 respectively, were removed from the budget as well. We've set aside $40,000 for coaching and $25,000 for the district athletic initiative, just due to the costs increasing there as well. Our next generation network, which we paid back to the ministry, as with every other district, has also increased just over $36,000. Our Microsoft licenses is a combination of fee increases, as well as just the need for more licenses as we continue to grow, up $150,000. Brightspace, which is the new software platform for what they're calling the polls, the new online platform that is going there. So there's some setup costs as well as some licensing costs to get started using those systems of $47,000, and a minor increase in utilities of $15,000. On the capital items that are purchased from operating funds, this is the plan that we've put forward. You can see the tech budget for technology is just under $2 million. We've planned for 15 portables at $3.5 million. Furniture and technology for those 15 portables of $500,000. Furniture for schools and equipment in school budgets, $105,000. The district's second portion of their contribution to the seismic project and expansion of Peter Ewart Middle, $300,000. There was a similar contribution last year, and another $400,000 for the final year to make up our $1 million contribution on that project. $250,000 for projectors in schools, our software, and $500,000 for fleet replacement for maintenance. All that rolled up together, you can see the total revenue at just over 280 million. Our expenses just below 276 million, with the transfers to capital of just under 7.2 million, leaves us in a deficit position of just over $2.5 million. That will be funded from accumulated operating surplus from the following categories. We will use we set some money aside as we right-sized our budget over the last number of years. So we will use $507,000 of that, just under $2.5 million. We will use the $107,000 of the infrastructure, as well as the $150,000 for the projector replacements to get to the $250,000 that we're spending on projectors. And then we will be using the $1.5 million for student capacity needs, which is our portable fund. So that's how the preliminary budget deficit will be funded for 23-24. A little bit on our special purpose funds. Special purpose funds are funds that are targeted for defined purposes, with a requirement that if they're not spent in the time, that they either need to be accrued or are paid back to the person or the entity that provided those funds. I'll go through some of those. The largest one, of course, is our Classroom Enhancement Fund. I have a separate slide for that. A lot of the adjustments here are either for increases due to collective agreements, and then the decreases are often due to the carryover amounts from the prior year being removed. or for grants that haven't yet been announced yet. Like the early child education credit grant, we haven't received that officially. The mental health in schools grant, we haven't heard. So there's grants that we are still expecting, but we can't budget funds that the ministry hasn't officially announced to us yet. One of the big ones is the Student Family Affordability Fund is being removed next year. So the 2.2 million has come out, and that is being replaced with the Feeding the Futures Fund of $2.6 million, which staff are working on building plans as that is focused on food and building food programs throughout school districts. And that is a fund that has been committed for the next 3 years. So the district is very appreciative of that, and we'll be working to build those plans to provide the foods for students in our district. The Classroom Enhancement Fund, which is the biggest piece of our special purpose funds. How they do Classroom Enhancement Fund for preliminary budget is basically they do the funding for the FTE and the overhead amount that they'd approved for the current year. So the amount for the 22-23, basically with the collective agreements built into it. Remedy at this point is not funded or announced. That gets calculated in October. So the Classroom Enhancement Fund shows it being down $2.4 million, but you can see that most of all of that is related to the fact that the $4.5 million remedy has been removed and will be replaced with the new remedy amount once we know what that is come October. Currently in our teachers, we have 357.5 FTE in our Classroom Enhancement Fund. So the next steps, obviously tonight, the reading of the first and second reading of the budget are in your package. The June 6th, we have our budget open house, which is open to our partners in our community to come and ask questions about the budget, to get information. And then we will be back for the June 20th for the third and final reading of the budget bylaw. Just a reminder for trustees, since we do have a deficit budget, we will have to do motions to use those accumulated operating surplus amounts prior to the reading of the third reading of the budget, so that we have the ability to balance our budget, because a balanced budget is a requirement from the ministry. Just to refresh, this is the budget bylaw that's in your package, the 355 million, and is what you will be voting on tonight. So with that, I will hand it back to the chair and answer any questions.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Isley. As we have two readings of the annual budget bylaw, maybe we'll do questions first. So would any trustees like to start or have any questions? Okay, Trustee Wilson, and then we'll do Trustee Neufeld.
Great, thank you. I just want to thank Secretary Treasurer Isley and Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shin-Chan for their work on this. I know that so much work goes in. We really don't see it all in this public meeting, but we have so many finance and facilities meetings where, you know, we're constantly, things are evolving and they're bringing us up to speed. So it's not, I sometimes feel like the public just thinks that we just hear this tonight about this 355 million and they're like, don't you have more questions? But things are going along all the time. So I do want to thank them. It's so much work and it's a great thing. And I just have a few comments. I'll start with a positive. Feeding the Future Fund, I'm very happy to see that. And I'm happy that it's a 3-year commitment so that we don't have to wonder year to year, are we going to receive this again? So thankful for the province for that. Not happy about the portables and that we fund that out of our operating budget, because the Ministry of Education and Childcare should, you know, funds our capital projects, i.e. schools, and portables are basically schools. So I really think that something needs to be done about this, because $3.5 million that could be going to our students is going to portables. So I noticed today Surrey Council, or yesterday, I don't know, it was in the news today, announced that they were in a crisis because of their portable issues. So I feel like Langley is in a similar crisis, and we really need to be vocal and raise the alarm bells on this issue, because it's not right for us to take money from students to fund portables. That is just, they need to build schools accordingly. So those are my comments about that. And I want to encourage everybody to attend June 6th for the budget open house, because we like to call it Budget Banter with Brian, and it's really engaging. So make sure you come out for that. Okay, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Trustee Neufeld.
Yeah, I just want to second what Trustee Wilson has to say about the portables. I mean, I wish there was more that we could do, but this is where we're at. Also, is there a cost difference with the increase in teacher salary increments compared to retirements, like savings from retirements? Is there any kind of, like, does that show what we save?
Usually there is a little bit of savings as the more expensive salaries come out. We usually see that in the average teacher savings that we get throughout the year. So that's just basically been incorporated in the increase amount. So there's a little bit of savings there as well, but it's already been incorporated.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Fox.
Thank you very much, and comments are well taken from Trustee Wilson, Trustee Neufeld, but I continue to hearken on the fact that we see our budget come through again as a deficit budget to provide education to the students in our district, and I still feel that that's an unfortunate situation. I think we should be funded at the cost of doing business on a day-to-day basis, and I think we need to continue to harp on that through our own lobby and the BCSDA and other opportunities to make mention to the ministry that we need to have the money to run this school district without having to sap what money is there in a reserve fund. So again, it's unfortunate, and I do attribute the fact that we do have some reserves to the good work of our staff. Thank you to Brian and Shin and the staff, because if we didn't, it wouldn't be a pretty picture. So thank you.
Any other trustees have any questions or comments? I just wanted to further reiterate what trustees have already said, and also commend Secretary Treasurer Isley and Shin Chan on your hard work. I fully believe that we would be in a worse position if we didn't have you. We're very fortunate to have your skills and to try to, this is not an easy feat to try to balance all of this, and so I really do appreciate all of your hard work, and thank you so much. And I agree as well. I was pleased at the BCSTA to see a motion pass about asking the province to fund portables. I really hope that actually gains some traction in the province, because it's not okay in the districts such as Langley, Surrey. There's other districts as well. I know Souk, I believe, is another one that we're pulling from other funds that should be used for our students and our so anyways, hopefully we can get somewhere with that, but thank you again for all of your hard work. So again, any other questions or comments? No, we're good. Okay. All right. So we will do so we have 2 readings this evening. So first, do I have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2023-24 in the amount of $3,055,297,252 be given first reading? Do I have a mover? Trustee Fox. Do I have a seconder? Trustee Rye. And all those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, next motion. Do I have a mover that the school district number 35 Langley annual budget bylaw for fiscal year 2023-24 in the amount of $355,297,252 be given second reading? Do I have a mover? Trustee Neufeld, second Trustee Rye. And all those in favor, please raise your hands. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, moving along now to superintendent's reports. A 7.1 strategic plan 2023 to 2026. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. Just want to start by saying thank you to many of the people in this room who have been a part of the conversations, the input, the collaboration that's gone on since I want to say December, as we started the first conversations at the table with our strategic team, and on through that. So thanks to all of the folks that have been a part of that, to our community comms department, Joe and Nick, for the amount of time that you've put in, to Claire Pereira, who has been amazing at the time and effort that she's put in as well to create the finished document. That's in your package currently. So I don't want to take a lot of the credit, so certainly a lot of that work and credit belongs to those folks. I want to begin again by reiterating these 3 principles of learning, that learning involves patience and time. And I think for us over the last 6 months or so, I've learned a ton from from our partners, from our community, and our students, having conversations with students as well. I realize that the 4-year journey that we've been on up until now has made a significant difference in the lives of students. And we continue to walk that line patiently, but with some resolve in trying to get to a place, again, that we want to make sure that all of our students are succeeding. Learning is embedded in memory, history, and in story, and it's an opportunity now to build on the story that we've had for the last 4 years and create more successes in reaching every student one at a time. And learning involves recognizing the consequences of one's actions. We can't deny what's happened in the past, as far as the time that we've been a part of colonialism and the impact that's had on Indigenous students. And we need to recognize that. And as that part of that recognition, you'll see that there's a large part of the plan that focuses on equity, and that equity needs to be there so that we can ensure that all students have the same opportunities regardless of where they come from. So again, this is not just the work is not just highlighted by the meetings that are up on the slide. Many and all of the partner groups took time to not just meet with me, but certainly meet with their own executives, their own groups, and take and provide feedback that came back to our team as well. I was able to take the components that were provided to us, piece them up in each of the sections so that our team had the ability to look at each of the feedback that came from everybody and ensure that voice was shared from everybody throughout this plan. I want to remind folks as well that we come from a good place, not a great place. I think, you know, many would say this is great, but we in Langley feel like we're still at good. We have room for improvement because when it's lives of students, we want to make sure that that all students are achieving at a rate that provides them with the opportunity to transition successfully. And all students, whether they be Indigenous, diverse, or children and youth in care, have the same opportunities upon graduation. Looking at the 6-year rates, they're certainly better. It means we're staying with our kids, we're working with our kids, and we continue to do so. I think about places like LEC, where many of our students return after many years of being out of the system and still find success beyond those that 6-year range as well. And we're able to do that through our vision of being an innovative, inspiring, and unified learning community. And I think that's something that we have done for the last 4 years. But I think the piece that I think that we need to add or include onto this is that we do so through the creation of compassionate and inclusive social and academic learning opportunities that provide access for every learner. And that's sort of the mantra that we've had over the last 3 or 4 years through the work around insoling our schools as well. And again, keeping in mind that our goal has to be, ought to be, and morally should be that the Langley School District is committed to ensuring all learners have equitable transition success rates through the collective work outlined in the strategic plan. What does that mean? It means that we're not looking at 97, 98, 99 for all. What we're saying that, and then having subgroups with less, what we're saying is that all students sit at 97. There isn't another subgroup. That should be our goal, because all students should have that same level of success. The other piece that we've done through the work around enrolling our schools and through the work that we did around gathering feedback from YIASTL was acknowledging that we have an enhancement agreement with the community, with the nations, and we have goals within the enhancement agreement as well. But the enhancement agreement and the strategic plan lived in two separate places. Now what you'll see in the plan is that the goals of the enhancement agreement are embedded directly in the preamble of the agreement. Because again, we need to look through the eyes of these two goals to ensure that all students are being successful. Our guiding principles, Natsamat, YIASTL, working together, equity for all learners, again, not necessarily fair equity. There's some places, students that need more, and we need to be able to provide more so that we can get to a place where we really walk that talk about every child matters through that model of continuous improvement. And heard loud and clear that we were hearing from our partner groups that didn't know what enrolling our schools was. So I think one of the things we wanted to do, because we had this 3-block model that we've talked about over and over again, through that feedback, with what we've decided to do is embed the 3-block model or enrolling our schools directly in the strategic plan as well. Really looking at the social emotional learning of our students, and ensuring that we have classrooms that are compassionate, and so that all students feel like they belong, that we have systems and structures that support students who are not being successful, that it's a team approach, that ensuring that classroom instruction is top notch, again, going from good to great in many of our classrooms. I know that in working with our teams, that certainly and with our partners, that is a common goal for all of us. And again, you know, looking through that lens of education, that part of the plan, we have some overarching themes that we want to continue to work at. That first being trying to ensure that we give opportunities to our staffs to have conversations with one another, and time throughout the day if we can. And we certainly at the secondary level, it's been 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and we continue to try and work through the models that have been created at the school level to ensure that collaboration can happen. That is still a work in progress. We're going to get it right, and I think the you know, where we've gotten and done really good work is around students who are needing that additional support. I think the next place is really to focus in on extension activities for all of our students. Implementing RTI, ensuring that all of our students are provided with supports when they need them in a timely way without pulling them from the classroom if we can help it, through tier 1 and tier 2 supports, which is that universal supports that are happening at the classroom level. So additional supports are happening so that they're not losing additional time of support at that point. And then the teaching and learning framework created by teachers, working with administrators, so that we know what we believe is good and great practice in our district, and coinciding that learning with the work around growth plans. And again, that partnership that we've been able to establish with the LTA there has been it's so important. Universal design for learning is something, again, we need to get to around providing entry points for all of our students. If we want to make sure that everybody's feeling is being successful, they have to feel success at all levels within the classroom so that they can see themselves not only in the classroom, but in the learning itself through the curriculum. And that comes from the hard work of teachers and support staff. And again, utilizing data to ensure that we're informing ourselves around what's working well and what's not. Working with the community of partners. And that's not just the community of partners beyond the school district, it's the partners that we have within the school district to ensure that those relationships stay intact, because we can work better together than we do in silos. I do believe that. I think we're all here for the same reasons. And continue to consult and work with our partners in creating opportunities for our students so that they can seek additional supports and opportunities beyond what we can do and offer at schools. Working around getting student voice involved more and more. The student engagement program project that started a number of years ago with Renge Bailey is something that I think it has gained some speed, lost some energy through COVID, but it certainly is something we're coming back to. Excited to finally see that the anti-racism part of the work that we've been talking about for a number of years is finally going to be a part of the work that we're doing in our district as well. Through operations and finance, you've already heard the hard work that's been going on over the last few months around creating the budget, around ensuring that we've got important investments that are happening in the right places, and we'll continue to do that work at the best of our ability. You see the background picture there is a picture of LSS Gym. Just an amazing transformation. Again, making sure that we're making those investments in our districts through an equitable lens, so that where we have money, we can make that investment. Working at getting to a place for a new secondary school, a new elementary school, continuing to look at hopefully getting the 12 classroom addition as well. Those are all things we want to work at getting as quickly as possible. And that only happens through the relationships that have gained our secretary treasurers, gained certainly that through not just at the district level, certainly at the ministry level. So again, very happy and very supportive of all the work that he's been doing as well. Operations and human resources, lots to go over in this section. Certainly, trustees have gotten a bit of an update on that section, but I think we've been working really hard to get to a place where relationships are the most important part of the work. Looking at the hard work that's happened over the past year around the amount of hiring and the positions that have been filled, I think that just highlights again that continued mission to ensure that we have the right people in front of students, because again, when we're short, again, it leads to burnout, and that's not something that we can get to for sure. So we continue to do that work. For our next steps, once we get to a place where the strategic plan is approved, our team will get to a place where the framework for enhancing student learning, which is our yearly action plan, will be developed through the actions that we have in our strategic plan. Anti-racism action plan will be a part of that. And I put that separate as a separate bullet because we are working with a consulting group called Bacau, and our deputy superintendent who's leading that work will continue to bring the actions to the district, starting with looking at our policies and procedures, and looking to see if there's anything within the structures that are creating barriers for our BIPOC community. And then the other piece, which again is a bigger job, certainly a job that we need to get to, which is a revisioning of the district. And we've begun our initial steps with that work as well. We get back to this because this is where we start from, that every child does truly matter. It's a graphic that we share at every single one of our meetings. It's a mantra that we want to share, not just in our meetings, but certainly in our strategic plan. We need to get back to and continue to have the conversations around how we can make a difference in the lives of all of our students. And I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. Okay, first, could I please have a mover on the recommended motion that the Board of Education approves the strategic plan for 2023 to 2026 as presented? Trustee Rye? Do I have a seconder? Trustee Neufeld? Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Ready? Trustee Wilson?
Great. Yeah, I realized that this was a lot of work as well, and I want to applaud you on that. I sat in on several of the partner group meetings, and I know that you met again and again with them, and that takes a lot of work, and it really showed how valuable the input was from our groups, and I'm happy that we made such an effort to do that. So a few little things. I don't know if this was the final version that got printed or we were waiting to vote, but I would love under the community of partnerships to, if we somehow could add a picture of our partner groups. They sit up here at this little table each time and spend their evenings with us. So it would be easy to get a group picture, but that's just if we, if we've already printed things up, and just a minor little addition. I also just wanted to make a comment on I liked seeing a lot of our different goals under the human resources that have been updated and added. I just wanted to comment on the Healthy Staff, Healthy Schools initiative. I know that I sound like a broken record. I've brought it up a few hundred times that I would like to see it become a joint committee. But I have heard what you've said and you've given your assurances that it operates like a joint committee and that the input from the different groups is heard and the direction from all the participants at the table is valued. So I'm really hoping when we have a chance to hear from them at some point down the road, that it is operating that way and that everybody feels like their voice is being heard. And also the employee satisfaction survey, which I love. I don't know how many times I can say how much I love that survey, and that it'll be coming again. And I really hope that when that comes, that the committee or group or whatever we want to call ourselves with the Healthy Staff, Healthy Schools will be included in the full survey results so that their input can be collaborative and one partner group may have input or something meaningful to contribute regarding another group. So I think it's important that they all see the full results and participate fully. So other than that, I think that you've done some great work and I'm excited to watch this plan get carried out over my term. So thank you for all the work.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the motion? Trustee Fox.
Thank you. I echo the sentiments of Trustee Wilson in terms of the amount of work that's been done. Edifications that have gone on over time, I'm sure, in terms of this document, right up to probably a week and a half ago. But one thing that I started the discussion off on when we originally started was I wanted to see more robust indication of what performance indicators were with respect to each goal. And I think that you've answered that challenge. You'll see a good number of performance indicators that are going to give us documentation. You mentioned the word data. That's what's going to drive this. And I appreciate that fact that you have indicated clearly and succinctly where you're going for that information. I do have a question. You don't have a copy of this, Dan. On page 5, there's a picture. Now, this picture, when you get this copy, look at this picture on page 5. That's a retro picture. Where did you find that picture, Joe? No. Hans Finger. That one there. With the kids around the golden. Oh, that's staff. Oh, that's the one they won at the music award, right? This past year.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that was when they won first place. Okay, I thought it was Hans Finger by the look of the teacher in the picture, but that's great.
Teacher seems Foster.
Okay,
Forster.
good. Anyway, nice to acknowledge student success and the teacher's accomplishment too, because they work hard at that. Thank you.
Any other trustees? Yes, Trustee Neufeld.
But I know that I'll be able to sleep because I think that the school district is in pretty good hands with this strategic plan over the next 4 years. So thank you for all your work.
All right. I'll just add as well, just another thank you to yourself, Superintendent Gill, and staff and everyone who's helped you with this. I know it was no small task. And I really appreciate all of the back and forth, even with trustees that you've given us. And I know it's difficult to bring everybody's ideas together, and everybody's still going to probably have things that they wish were added or would like removed. And so it's a difficult task for sure. And I appreciate you doing such an amazing job at this. And I do agree with Trustee Neufeld that I believe that we're in good hands and we have a great plan going forward for the next 4 years. And so just thank you, heartfelt thank you for, I'm sure, hours and hours and hours of work. So yeah, appreciate it. All right, so still no further discussion. So we have a motion on the table. So the question is on the motion that the Board of Education approves the strategic plan for 2023-2026 as presented. Can I please have a show of hands? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to 7.2 school calendars 2023 to 2024 amended. And who is going to
I will, I'll jump in.
Superintendent Gill?
Yeah, I'm going to introduce District Principal Kim Reeve. There's been some more information that's been gathered since the presentation of our school calendars, and there was just a couple of amendments that needed to be made, and so I asked them to come back and just present those for approval from trustees.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. We did have a couple of updates since our last meeting, and today I'd like to bring to you elementary with student inclusive conferences. We had an LOU signed after the last board meeting, and in that letter of understanding, we combined our usual 2 1-hour early dismissals and combined them into one 2-hour early dismissal for the fall and the spring. So we needed to adjust that into the calendar to take away those 2 days in the fall and the spring and to make them 1 2-hour early dismissal in order to accommodate the student inclusive conferences that we will be going with for next year. And that's just for the elementary one. And then the second one, and there's the calendar there. And as you can see in the fall and the spring, if you have better eyesight than myself, you can see that we've changed it into just one date, not 2. And then Langley Education Center, we needed to accommodate their schedule of Monday to Thursday and professional development days to accommodate statutory holidays and for them to have the ability to participate in district scheduled Pro D. So we moved some of their Pro D days from normally they wouldn't be in session on Friday, so we have them in session so their teachers are able to participate. And again, you'll see the days positioned in there to allow their staff the opportunity to participate in professional development based on a Monday to Thursday schedule. So the recommendation to the board is the Board of Education approves the amended school calendars for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Thank you. All right, we have a mover on the motion that the Board of Education approves the amended school calendars for the 2023-2024 school year as presented. Do I have a seconder? Trustee Ward. All right, any discussion on the motion? Trustee Neufeld.
Sorry, yeah, are we adding 2 hours or like just because combine the 2 1-hour early dismissals into one? I'm just adding, is there extra 2 hours or is there 4 hours in total? Sorry, I'm just kind of confused. I'm reading, I'm like, I don't get it.
Is one, so we're going
Yeah.
from 2 1-hour days.
Yeah.
Usually it's a Wednesday and Thursday where there's early dismissal of 1 hour. Now we're going to 1 day and going 2 hours earlier.
Any other discussion on the motion? Or questions? No? All right, seeing no more discussion on the motion. Could I please see a show of hands for all those in favor? And opposed? 0. So carried unanimously. Next, thank you. Next on our agenda is 7.3 AP 261 student exchanges and billeting. And am I passing this over to you, Superintendent?
You are. Assistant Superintendent Lanchbury has been doing tremendous amount of work around introducing this policy this evening. The work around ensuring that students have opportunities beyond our province and internationally in different opportunities around student exchanges and billeting is an important part of learning. And so this was a procedure that needed some work. And so I'll pass it off to Assistant Superintendent Lanchbury.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. It is an honor and pleasure to be here this evening. I just want to invite my colleague, Principal Linda, to join me up here. Because this is a collective effort and work. And also I just want to thank and honor Erin Anderson and Deborah Fanato, teachers at Walnut Grove Secondary School, who were instrumental in providing information about their experiences of billeting and exchanges and helped us with the development of this admin procedure. So Langley School District is really excited about the trips that we are providing for our students, and we want to continue to support field trips, whether they be international, local, involve billeting, or exchanges. However, we want to do this in a way that we are really focusing on student safety and being diligent in the planning and supporting staff and students along the way. Because we really want students to have memories that are positive and have really empowering because of their experiences. So just to clarify for all of you listening today, billeting is when hosting experience exists in a home instead of a paid accommodation. For example, a hotel, which is often typical for a trip for students. And an exchange means that billeting is reciprocal. So it may happen locally here in BC, or it may happen in the country where the students are visiting. So because Langley School District does have a tremendous desire to continue to support these trips, we need to pay attention to some details that allow us to ensure that there's a shared understanding amongst everyone involved. So it was prudent for us that we developed an admin procedure that helped us do so that we had common vocabulary and some guidelines for staff. So of note, when we have an international field trip, that trip is first approved by the principal in consultation with the assistant superintendents, and then the assistant superintendent overseeing field trips, and also the assistant superintendent of that particular school have conversations and discussions and provide more guidance to back to the principal for some further detail seeking, and then it's approved. So it's not just a matter of it gets submitted and then we approve. We're very careful and mindful in the process that we go through because, of course, safety is utmost. So just some notable elements that really are guide the importance of this admin procedure is the first is all hosts must have a criminal record check done. So anybody in the home that's 18 years or older must have this criminal record check done. And if this is happening in an exchange country, then the equivalent is it must be done. Already we're in conversations with some of the planning that's happening, and they've already contacted what would this look like for you on the other end, and school districts across the world have in the ones that we're already thinking of possibly approving do have criminal record check equivalents in their countries. So we know that we're creating a common vocabulary in that way. Also aligned with our admin procedure, transportation of students, this same expectation is needs to be occurring in other countries. So when our students are going to other countries, and if they're in a billeting situation or an exchange situation, we thought it was really important for those parents to provide the same information and assurance that we expect in our from our British Columbia families. So again, all of this is reinforced by our admin procedure, transportation of students, our admin procedure, student field trips that already are in existence, and the student expectations and consequences admin procedure is linked for guidance for student behavior expectations. Also of note is that embedded in the admin procedure for student field trips is a link to the student handbook, the field trip handbook, and that field trip handbook provides a great deal of information for staff so that they can plan a safe field trip in consultation with the assistant superintendents. But we all know that while we work to ensure the safety of our students, what they're very excited about is the experience that they have. So we thought what better way of us to get a little glimpse into the world of a student experience in a field trip is to invite the principal who has had the opportunity to come in contact with students and staff and parents who have been able to share their experience with him. So I introduce you again, Principal Linden from Walnut Grove Secondary School.
That one?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, thank you, Assistant Superintendent Lashbury, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today about international field trips and exchanges. I haven't spoken in a board meeting for probably 3 or 4 years. I was surprised to be invited back. So thank you. Thank you for that. So for me, when we talk about this, it really starts with that idea of transformative educational experiences. Something that we want for each and every one of our students, and Superintendent Gill talked about that in terms of every child matters. So for me, that's really what this is about. And for some kids, that ends up being in the classroom with a teacher, with an SEA, at somewhere within the school environment. Often it happens outside of the four walls of a classroom or the four walls of the school itself. And when I think about transformative experiences for kids, very often I think about cohorts or small groups of kids and staff that are coming together around really an intensified educational experience. So this is really one of many opportunities that already exist for kids. So I think about some of the things that happen for kids in our athletics programs, fine arts. I think of our musical that just kind of finished up. See, they're really excited too about this presentation, so I appreciate that. Our youth training trades programs, again, that cohort program and the value of that. I think of some of the specialized programs that I've had an opportunity to be involved with. I think of Cat Pack at Brookswood. Shout out to Assistant Superintendent Moino on that one. I think of the AVID program at Aldergrove Secondary, LSS, the EDGE program at Walnut Grove. And then, of course, in this case, we're talking about international exchanges. So where this kind of resurfaced was coming out of COVID. One of the things we were doing as a school was trying to reconnect with why it is that we do what we do. And so, as you all know, COVID, we were focused on that piece. And so the two teachers that were already mentioned, Deb Finato and Aaron Anderson, they approached me after that and said, you know what, that's really a part of my why is these international exchanges. So for Aaron Anderson, a language teacher, a big part of why she does what she does is the cultural piece related to language courses. And then for Deb Finato, who's a science teacher, just her own kids having gone through those experiences, she having gone through those experiences herself. So really wanting to figure out how do we do that coming out of the pandemic again, which is where Assistant Superintendent Lynchbury has come in. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank her for the amount of work that she's put into this, meeting with me, meeting with the teachers, and just draft upon draft upon draft of this admin procedure. So enough for me. One of the things I asked of our two teachers were, can you give some testimonials from some of our students who have been on these? So I couldn't believe the number that they sent me. So what we'll do is I'll read the first half, we'll take a brief intermission, and then we'll read the second half. So no, sorry, I'll narrow it down to two. So from a student, Samantha, who was on a France exchange in 2011 and 12 and Germany in 2013 and 14. And she says, my experience with exchange trips through Walnut Grove Secondary was truly life-changing. It sparked my passion for learning about history, culture, and language. My grades in French, social studies improved significantly from C's to A's after the school exchange offered the real-world context to make the material meaningful to me. I've stayed in contact with both of my exchange twins, as she calls them, which has allowed her to develop French and German language skills. Last fall, she traveled to Germany to reconnect with the family, almost 10 years after going on the exchange. And most recently, Anna, who had the opportunity to go to Spain in 2019, she says, for me personally, the whole exchange was a big step outside my comfort zone. I was very shy, and my fear of being observed and judged by others did not leave me with very many extracurricular school activities I was comfortable trying. But doing something brave like traveling with mostly strangers to strange places, to live with more strangers, gave me a taste of life and of freedom to try new things. It was so significant for my personal development to have an opportunity to try something that wasn't a performance for others, that was an investment into a personal experience that would be mine forever. It was one of the most outgoing things I'd ever done, and I was pushed even further by my outgoing, way more extroverted than me exchange partner. Sarah was amazing and kind and lived life way differently than me. Just by being herself, she gave me a huge lesson in understanding other people's perspectives and cultures, and I'm grateful to this day to have gotten to become and stay friends with her. I hope to visit her one day again. For a shy 10th grader, like I was, the exchange really was a transformational experience for me and left me with memories and lessons which inform my life and perspective to this day. So with that, I will turn it back to Assistant Superintendent Lynchbury.
So as you can see, this is a real meaningful experience for any student who has the opportunity. Just want to highlight that the pictures that you see up there are not only from Walnut Grove, but the New Zealand exchange or billeting trip for the rugby tour. Stuart Crawley was here at a previous meeting sharing his experience, and so thank him and Principal Smiley for those photos, and just really excited about the work that we're going to be doing to support students in their educational opportunities with these field trips in the future. And for that, I just thank you again for the opportunity this evening and open it to questions or comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So can I have a mover first on the recommended motion that the Board of Education receives administrative procedure number 261, student exchanges and billeting for information as presented? Trustee Fox, seconder, Trustee Neufeld. And any discussion on the motion or on any questions? Hey, Trustee Ward.
So I thank you for the presentation. To me, this is quite meaningful because I'm somebody who went on an exchange. It was national. It was to Quebec, and it made a significant impact in my life. It was 3 months, and it gives you a really robust experience to, whether you're extroverted or not, to extend yourself beyond what you were previously. So what I did notice with this is a lot more comprehensive than I guess what we probably had back then. I don't think there was any criminal record checks, which not saying it was a problem, but maybe I wouldn't have been able to go. But anyway, no, I just think this is really it's a great thing that you've had your eyes on this and updated it, especially after COVID. And of course, I would encourage any student to take advantage of this. And I went on rugby trips too, or trip, I should say. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Any other trustees? Trustee Neufeld.
Yeah, I'm just glad to hear that the students in their the experiences that they had were very similar to what I had, and that you guys are doing all the hard work to make sure that they're safe when they go out and do their activities and live with these families. I know that at that age, we don't really think too much about our safety. We just go and have fun. So thanks for looking out for them.
Any other questions or comments? No? All right, seeing none. We have a motion on the table that the Board of Education receives administrative procedure number 261, student exchanges and billeting for information as presented. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, we're already at new business. So I will pass this over to Trustee Wilson as she has a motion.
Great, thank you. Just going to briefly explain. The board was fortunate enough to have a very powerful presentation from our elementary school counselors at our last education committee meeting, and it made it clear that we needed to advocate. So with that being said, I would like to move that the Board of Education write a letter to the Minister of Education and Childcare to request additional targeted funding to hire more counselors to address the increased needs of students and families that districts are facing due to the unprecedented mental health crisis we are currently experiencing.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Trustee Fox? Okay, any quick discussion on the motion? Oh, I'll go first to you, Trustee Wilson.
Great. I'll just read the rationale that I had sent along with it. There are several reasons that we need more counselors. The current outdated provincial ratio of counselors to students of 1 to 589 makes it impossible to service all of the students and families that currently require mental health support. The current funding limits counselors from forming the much needed, stable, ongoing connections with students due to the constant need to assist in crisis intervention. The need for mental health services has increased exponentially, due in large part to the global pandemic. These are just some of the reasons that a change to the ratio and funding are so necessary. I hope you will all vote in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Trustee Fox?
Thank you. I apologize I wasn't here for the presentation, but I did review the slides very carefully because it's a topic that's near and dear. Obviously, spending the years I spent in as a principal and married to a high school counselor, I guess you gotta come to the plate when it's your turn to go to bat, right? So I think this is very nicely explained, Trustee Wilson, in your rationale. I think this is a bigger picture issue. I think this is across the province. I think we need to, as a Board of Education, take a little leadership here and maybe share through the counselor's professional or organization, maybe through the LTA. I'm not sure exactly how we would do it with other districts, the intent and rationale for this motion, because I think if we look across education in our province, every district suffering from the same thing. I know in the past, and I don't want to do comparatives, but I will, you know, the librarians got, as part of the collective agreement, a significant increase in the number of librarians in schools. I'm not sure that this would exactly parallel that in the funding aspect of it, but certainly I think in the need aspect it does. We need to support our kids, and we saw in a strategic plan the importance of where mental health fits in a student's learning, in the students coming to school, in the students' commitment to their education. And the counselor plays a big role in that piece. And I think that this is a really worthwhile motion, fully supported. And I think it should go beyond just the scope of this board, writing a single letter to the Minister of Education.
Thank you, Trustee Fox. Any other trustees have any comments? No? Okay, just 1 second here. I just have a comment here. So just I just want to thank Trustee Wilson for bringing this motion forward. I know this request came from counselors from our education committee meeting, and I felt even at that meeting there was unanimous support for what they were asking, and so I'm pleased to support this motion, and I hope that all other trustees will, and I believe they will. So but just thank you very much, and I know sometimes writing letters is a little bit, I think sometimes it might go past some, but I think we have to even just make a point of talking to those that we know that are in our provincial government. And I know I have been already discussing with my MLA, and so we just have to keep pushing. So, all right. So, did Trustee Rye want?
Yeah, So I wanted to add as well, this is a great motion. You're right, we need to get together and advocate for this. My daughter suffered from mental health from issues at school. I know other kids have, and you know, some parents can afford getting their kids counseling outside of school. Some parents can't. So I think this is a very awesome motion that you've made, and I support it 100%.
Thank you, Trustee Rye. All right, can I have a show of hands, please, for all of those in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to the trustee comments. Any trustees have any comments they would like to make? I can start down with Trustee Fox if you have, and if you don't, that's okay too.
Well, here, and I'm hanging in. I've got through the main meat of the motion or the evening. So, do I have your permission, Chair, to?
Trustee Fox.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll forgive you. It's all good. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yep, thanks for coming.
Trustee Wilson.
I just want to not take credit for that motion because that was like a board motion and really it came from us watching that presentation. So just because I'm the one who spoke it, I know that it's definitely on behalf of the board. So, and thank you all for coming and spending your evening with us, and have a great long weekend.
Trustee Neufeld.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Great, and I'm not going to add to the comments. I'll just move on to the next, other than thank you everyone for coming. I know it's a beautiful evening, so I know a lot of people would probably rather be out hanging out outside right now. So thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to question period. And I just want to remind everyone that question period is provided at board meetings. The purpose is to ensure that those present in the audience have an opportunity to obtain clarification concerning business conducted during the meeting. Priority will be given to responding to one question per person before considering further questions from any individual. The following will help the public develop questions for question period at a board meeting that is keeping with the goal of a respectful and focused meeting. Questions need to be directed at the chair and not to staff, need to be related directly to the topic on the agenda, need to be succinct, focused, and not be a statement, may not be asked that are related to personnel or directed at an individual trustee, may not be asked that are related to contract negotiations, and the questioner shall provide their name so that it can be reflected in the minutes. All of the above are directions provided in or provided for in board policy number 7, board operations. The chair may answer, may defer to staff, or indicate a question may not be in keeping with the above guidelines. The board appreciates the public's interest and wants to ensure a professional meeting is conducted, with question period focusing on providing guests with the clarification they seek. Trustees are also welcome questions from members of the public apart from question period. Their contact information is available on the school district website. So just a reminder to please direct questions to staff, or not to staff. Please don't direct questions to staff, but through the chair. And it must be related to an item on the agenda and not to be making statements. Thank you. Tanya?
Yes, hello. This question is regarding the budget. There was a point on there for TTOC coach for teachers at 0.35 FTE. And I'm just wondering what that position actually is.
I'm going to refer this, I believe.
I'm going to
the
ask
Superintendent Gill.
Deputy Superintendent Bradford to answer that question.
So what we want to try and do is expand program deployments in terms of mentorship. So those teachers that
Need some additional support in classrooms. So someone that's an experienced teacher comes side by side with another teacher and provide that one-on-one support throughout the year. So just making sure that the mentorship program is very successful right now, just providing additional support.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing no more questions from the audience, I will I will ask that a motion be made to adjourn the meeting. Trustee Ward, motions to adjourn the meeting, seconded by Trustee Wilson. Can I have a show of hands for those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.